Next on Vox Africa, Aanu Michael brings you unique showcases on Nigeria. Well, thank you for joining me on another exciting episode of the 411 Nigeria on Vox Africa. I'm Aanu Michael, your host, and today I'm coming all the way from the nation's capital, right here in the office of the Honorable Minister of Information and Culture. I'm talking about Alhaji Lai Mohammed. Thank you so much for coming on the show, sir.
Thank you, Aanu.
It is such a pleasure. Now, sir, for the benefit of our global audience, spread across Africa, Europe, and the UK, what is the ministry's policy, trust, and policy direction?
Well, this is the Ministry of Information and Culture, and of course, and Tourism and National Orientation. Before now, we had a separate Ministry for Information, then a separate Ministry for Culture and Tourism, and National Orientation. But owing to some of the restructuring, the government did to cut down the cost of governance, certain ministries had been merged, and that's I come to to preside over information, culture, tourism, and national orientation. On the surface, it would seem an incongruous combination, but really, in reality, I think it's an intelligent move on the part of government, because you can now use the unique, you can leverage on the unique powers of information and culture to actually drive the government's agenda. As a Minister of Information and Culture, you are not just the spokesperson, for the government in terms of, issuing out statements and things like that. I think you do much more as a Minister of Information. Minister of Information, you're also a strategist, for the government. And then when you now combine this with culture and tourism, then you really find that you use information to drive tourism and culture. And then you now use all of them to ensure that the country and the world at large, actually, the benefit, from, effective and efficient communication. And here we're not talking about communication in just one-way communication. We're talking about communication in a kind of a two-way communication. We are also out there, we have mechanism also to let the government know exactly what people, people are thinking about them. And this is especially, one of the major parastatals under the ministry, which is the National Orientation Agency. National Orientation Agency is, unquestionably the most, grassroots, organization we have, because they are representative in every local government of the country. And on a daily basis, they collate, people's views, people's, thinking, reaction to government policies, which is sent back to this ministry, which we now feed back to government to know exactly how people are reacting to our policies and our programs.
Now, that takes me to the tri-concept of information, management, dissemination, and control. This usually is a Herculean task for appointees of the federal government, and sometimes we experience this also at the second and third tiers of government. How are you personally now, the Honorable Minister, combating this challenge? Well,
you are right. I think it's a real challenge in the sense that you see, information dissemination has changed, radically. Before now, we had what you call the traditional media, television, radio, the print. But with the introduction of the social media, it's become a completely different game now. Today, anybody with a smartphone is a journalist. And they can post any story he or she wishes. And and amazingly, they have their own audience. Now, so what we've done here, that we've combined, of course, we have not abandoned the traditional, media. We use television, we use radio, we use the print to push out our stories. We use the social media also. But we've realized that even with all this, you are not always able to reach the people. And that is when we now came up with this idea, or rather, we resuscitated the idea of, town hall meetings. Okay. Because you see, with town hall meetings, we can talk directly to the people without anybody, trying to filtering it. Information. And our town hall meetings, I think we have about 6 or 7, so far. We had one in, we had the first one in Lagos, we had another one in Kaduna, we had in Kano, we had in Akwa Ibom, in Uyo, we had in Enugu, and then we had a special one in Abuja for the alumnus of the Nigerian Institute of Policy Strategic Studies, and then we also periodically also arranged town hall meetings between our various ministers and the various bodies like the Broadcasting Organization of Nigeria, Newspaper Association of Nigeria. You see, the idea of the town hall meetings is like, it's not just Lai Mohammed that is talking or addressing town hall meetings. Our average town hall meetings, you have at least 6 cabinet ministers, depending on where we are. It was like when we went to Uyo, which was supposed to be the town hall meeting for the South-South, we knew that the major concerns in the South-South would have to do with militancy, will have to do with youth unemployment, will have to do with the environment, will have to do with job creation, and will have to do with oil and gas. So we picked ministers in charge of this portfolio to address them. When we went to Enugu for the Southeast, we looked at what are the major challenges facing the Southeast, like erosion, like unemployment, agriculture. So that's what we've been doing, and I think this to us has proven to be very, very effective. The one step we want to go now, really, is to have what we call specialized, town hall meetings. See, because all we hear often is that, this government has no economic plan. We don't even know what this government is doing. And that is because those who ought to be like influencers, those who ought to be like repeater stations, who ought to know, are yet to key into our various, information strategy. And this is the next step we're going to do. We're going to take advantage of every major platform, such as probably if the Institute of Child Accounts of Nigerians, if they are having their annual general meeting, we take opportunity to let our economic team to address them. If the next meeting in Davos, we'll send a team there. If we look at the Manufacturing Association of Nigeria, we send a team there, so that these are people who would understand what we are doing.
Now let's talk about Change Begins With Me campaign. It is the #1 baby of the ministry, obviously, right now. That is what you are expecting the country to be charged with right now. I mean, it's causing a rippling effect and all that. Why did you decide, okay, Change Begins With Me is what we're going for?
I think very early, even before I was nominated as a minister, I was quite concerned about, the way we've abandoned our old traditional values of integrity, punctuality, industry, patriotism. And I felt that, rather than complain, continue to complain about the situation, why don't we find a solution? And it came clear to me that it's not just about leadership, it's not just about government, that each and every one of us, as long as we continue to do things the same way, we can't get a better result or a different result. So we sat down with some of my colleagues and said to have a campaign that will touch every Nigerian. Now, change begins with me, which means it's very simple. So like, if I start changing, the way I do things, then Nigeria will be better. Change begins with me. And if you look at some of the adverts we're using, you see, we start with probably a Danfo driver who says, my name is something as Bansi. I'm not going to drive under the influence of Paraga again. Change begins with me. Or a man says, my name is Christopher. I will no longer sell, adulterated, drugs.
Products.
Change begins with me. Or the guy that says, oh, I'm a custom officer,